it was super loud. Everybody's yelling from the doorways, you know, and I'm like, shut up, I'm trying to find her. And then it was so freaking loud in there and I couldn't see a damn thing, like just the worst, zero viz, and there's stuff everywhere. And I'm just running into stuff and I can look back and know that I could have been better on that day. I could have been more systematic. I thought I knew where I was going, and as soon as I got off track, I wasn't seasoned enough to be able to keep all of those little bits of information in my head and keep my whereabouts. And I got, you know, just I was going hard, and I was not finding her.
Relax.
There was one particular rescue. It wasn't on my current crew, but it was on truck 4, where we had and that might be a good one as a, like, hey, here's how that has changed, you know?
Yeah.
And because, well, I mean, I don't need to go in it all now, but it all like dovetails, like, here's what happened on this one. Here's why I got better. Here's the result of that. And we made a really incredible save that the doctor was like, hey, 10 seconds longer and he would have been gone. We had him like VS, and it was a VS rescue, and it was 2 minutes and 8 seconds from air brake to me saying, we've got him in the front yard.
Wow.
That's how that pace and that serious outlook about training is, it freaking pays off.
People don't
on scene, like in because you see, you know what I see when I'm just going to start talking.
We're already live,
but
man. So you go ahead.
Oh, okay.
We're already talking. You're good.
But that's what I see on scene a lot is guys show up and they open compartments and they talk about stuff and they look for what tools and we are already past that phase and already in the building when that's going on.
Well, I can tell you right now, just meeting you, Scott, I mean, what an honor it's been to meet you and have you on the show, first of all. I mean, just talking about what we were talking about, because, I mean, for those of you watching, we had an open house at our facility, and it was probably, 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And we have multiple training units that we have. We let firefighters come and, hey, train on them a little bit. Let's see what you can do. And we'll have fire departments that come through, and we have people that come through and train in Spokane Valley and Coeur d'Alene and KCFR and Northern Lakes. And you and I got in touch, I think, about a week before that when we were chatting. I was like, hey, man, I'd love to have you guys come out. And like, oh, yeah, we'll be out there. But when you guys showed up to our training that day, the level went from here to here. Honestly. And then that's not to say anything else about anybody. I mean, I look at like KCFR and Coeur d'Alene and Steve and Justin, those guys, like, I mean, they train hard, don't get me wrong. But when you guys came in, man, it was a different bar. You guys were on scene. You treated it like you were on scene. Everything you did was 101 miles an hour. There was no breaks. It was just boom, boom, boom. Here's what we're doing. Your guys knew you were on the same page. It was incredible, man. Hell of a job on your front, man. So talk to me a little bit. How did you guys, what's the mindset for you guys? Why do you guys train at that level? What gets you there?
Well, it's kind of a long story, and it's been a career of figuring that out for me. But I've had some really impactful calls early in my career that really fine-tuned the way I trained, and was frankly let down by some officers and some training that didn't serve me at the time and didn't serve the people needing rescue. And I guess now I have a system that I use, and it's 110% on every effort. It's starting with the basics, drilling the basics throughout, like never forgetting the basics.
Yeah.
We do a lot of timed drills, laddering buildings, VSing, forward the roof off the aerial. We time them. We compare notes across the station. I use a lot of things that I learned from FDNY and the way they operate. Mm-hmm. And basically that would be standardizing our work throughout different shifts and different crews so that you always know what tool you need and what your job is on that particular type of fire. And that we all train the same way at my station, and we all expect that on every single go. And we treat, I don't care if it's a fire where there actually is a rescue, mm-hmm. or if it's an alarm, we just a false alarm or a nothing fire. We try and approach everything with that same level professionalism and just intensity. And I think that's what it takes to really get it done. And that's, I believe, as firefighters, we make really good money, and very few people have the pension that we have. We're incredibly lucky, and I feel incredibly blessed to be in that position, and especially the background I came from, and to have the respect of the citizens. And the only way that I earn that is that every day, every time I get on that rig, that's the way I operate, and everybody that trains under me operates. And I think that is what makes us worth that pay. Like I feel good about, I wouldn't feel good about it. I couldn't make that much and have that kind of benefits and not put in that kind of work. So I think there's a real reason to take it that seriously.
Well, man, just that mindset that you have going that way. I mean, I can't relate to it on a firefighter level, but I mean, being on a team and like you see the effort that people put in, and you are the effort you put in on training days. It's like when nobody else is watching, what type of effort are you putting in? And I know from a coaching standpoint, that is what you hear all the time. But to see you guys come in and train like that, it doesn't go unnoticed, man. Like that's huge. And I know the citizens of Spokane are extremely fortunate to have guys like yourself in the community, out on scenes, who are responding the way you guys do, man. Because that's what you expect when you get somebody on scene is, you expect this, but you guys are here. So very, very intuitive, man. You guys did a hell of a job. So nice work on that. But for everyone watching too, maybe give me a quick little background. So you're at Spokane right now. What's your title there? How long you been there? Where were you before that?
I'm the captain on Truck 14, the station captain for Station 14, and we're on the South Hill. It's a newly formed truck company that I got a pretty special assignment when I made captain. They wanted me to, it required a big change of personnel. I got to recruit some really good guys, and my ops chief, who I have a ton of respect for, and he asked me if he wanted me to give him the flagship ladder truck of the Spokane Fire Department, and I took that very seriously. And our only goal is to be the best, and so I think we've done a lot to get there just through hard training. But anyhow, that's where I'm at now.
What year did you start with Spokane?
I started at the beginning of 2001.
Okay, and where were you before that?
I was in Montana. I had been in the military, and I joined the Army in, I'm kind of old. Joined the Army in '89, and I was in the first Gulf War. And in the Army, I found something, I think the first thing in my life that really worked for me, that I really felt proficient at something, felt like I could be the best at it, really like explore my potential. And I loved the camaraderie. And even in combat, there's really nothing like the bonds that form, and you're just you're serving a greater good. You have a real purpose together, and you're just living every life, you're living every day like it's the most important day of your life. I don't know. There's just a certain feeling that I really tapped into. And then when I got out of the military, I had, it's a longer story, but I had some big difficulties there, and I was exposed to some chemical agents and had some really bad medical stuff. And I went through some really tough years, and was very disillusioned with just about everything. Yeah. And especially, didn't think I would ever work for the government or anything like that. I went into and I think this is common with veterans, with combat vets especially. It's a really hard transition to get back into civilian life. And yeah, I just experienced all of that. And my brother got hired with Spokane Valley in 2000. And he had asked me about testing to be a firefighter, and I had said, hell no, man, I'm not doing any of that. I didn't know what it was about. Yeah. And I came over for his graduation and got to hang out with his boys on on Valley Fire, and I immediately knew it was something special. And what I found, like at the end of the day, what it has everything that worked for me in the military is present. Like this incredible sense of camaraderie. I mean, there's no bigger living in the moment than being on combat or than being in a working fire or part of a rescue or even a intense medical call. You know, you're just, and you're doing all that in service of the community, which means a lot to me. I grew up in a, you know, really poor, just, you know, kind of tough circumstances, and never thought I would be, if you would have told me when I was a kid that I'd be a fire captain, I wouldn't have believed you, you know, just to be like somebody who's respected by the community and like a pillar of the community and have little kids look up to you. I really take that seriously. It means a hell of a lot to me.
That's so big, man. And it's a common trend. Actually, Rusty Kramer came on. He was ex-military as well. And he came on. He had this. It's funny. I mean, kind of the same type of story where guys are so used to and gals are so used to being in this, you know, military spot where you have this camaraderie of people around each other, and then you get out, and like you said, they kind of have this sense of just. And I'm not speaking from experience. I don't know, but just from what I've heard from other people. But you have that sense of just what now? I was doing all this. I was with these guys all the time, constantly, and then I get out and you're trying to find a purpose and you don't know, and then the fire service comes along, and he said the same type of thing. It's like the second he went that first day and he saw what was happening, it was just like, this is 100% where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So from that point on then, so when you were at Spokane Valley, then you got in with Spokane?
I was with Spokane. I tested with both. Well, I tested in a few places, and Spokane was the first one that hired, and I didn't know how lucky I was. In fact, it's funny, you know, my brother and I always had a nice little rivalry with Spokane and Spokane Valley. And initially I really wanted to be Spokane Valley. That's where Darren and all his buddies were, and they're great guys. And I was like, I guess I'll take this job with Spokane. I had no idea the rich history and tradition of Spokane Fire, and just feel incredibly lucky to be a part of it. I mean, everybody that's part of the fire service knows how important that tradition and everything is to the fire service. And going back to 1890s, and our union was formed in, I think, 1884. I should know that right off the top of my head, but
really, in Spokane.
Yeah, and so yeah, we were local 29. You know, then the 29th local that there was. And we were a leader on the West Coast. I was doing a project for the department and found a bunch of old newspaper clippings from the turn of the century, the 20s, the 30s, and Spokane was leading the region all up and down the West Coast. I found an article about, they had this big convention here every year, and it would draw, at its most, it drew 20,000 people and 5,000 attendees. It was the Northwest Fire Chiefs Convention, like Canadian chiefs all up and down the coast would come, and they would have drill teams and exhibitions out at the, I think they did it at the old Joe Albee arena, or one of those arenas in Spokane. And yeah, they even actually had a mock little house that they burned, and they have competitions. Yeah, and you'd see pictures of them are amazing. These guys, you can tell they are so proud, like just finely tuned machines, like super. There's pictures of them doing rope rescues, and there's an interview with Chicago Fire's chief where he talks about that he's never seen it done, any of those rescue techniques done any better than he had by the guys of Spokane, and that we were teaching Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, like, wow. So I'm really proud of, you know, that's a long time before me, but it's a cool history. Yeah. And what was left of that, I came on at a really weird time in the fire service. Spokane has a very aggressive, a very aggressive tradition of firefighting, like interior aggressive attack, and, you know, and a very strong truck culture. And I don't know anybody that's aware, and I suppose most of our listeners are probably firefighters, but you know, understanding the difference between truck work and engine work, and we had really, you know, kick-ass engine crews too, but notably a very strong strong truck program, and those are the, of course, the crews that you know, soften up the building, do the forcible entry, you know, cut the roof for ventilation, do the rescues, and just it's a lot of stuff involved and requires a lot of training, and I was always drawn to that. But Spokane has a great history of that, and you would hear all these stories of these legendary firefighters, and I got to work with a number of them, but it was like they would always say, "You just missed it, kid. Best job in the world." I would say morale was at an all-time low, but we still had this DNA of like, you will figure it out and be brave in there and go hard. But somewhere along the line, some of the training and stuff we had, Spokane was one of the first municipalities to go through this phase where they decided that the fire department should be run by like city manager types. And it was more of like an insurance actuary's viewpoint of how a fire department should run. And that swept through the fire service for a number of years. I don't know if you're aware of that, but and not that I don't ever want to knock safety, but the safety culture got out of hand where the saying you used to hear all the time was like, the most important thing so we all get home at the end of the shift. And no, that's really not the most important thing. Most important thing is if your family, 3 o'clock in the morning, experience a fire, upstairs, your kids are in their bedrooms, what's the most important thing? The most important thing that me and my whole crew are training every single shift all year to be in that position and save their lives and risk our lives to do it. That's the most important thing. And I think the fire service had started to really push away from that. We had to fight hard to keep that. We went through I'll just say some very poor leadership, where it wasn't about that at all. And now I'm just incredibly happy with how things turn out. Now the people I'm working for are the guys that were in the trenches with me, keeping those. I feel like I got to be one of the guys that really kept that tradition alive. And I'm working for the other guys that kept that tradition alive. So are, you know, everybody from our fire chief. Our fire chief is actually from Portland, but a great guy, a real good fireman, and a good like his goal is for us to bring our own up and you know, not have the chiefs coming in from outside. And really respect that about his leadership. And then ops chief, training chief, all our battalion chiefs are just the guys I know I can count on because I fought fire with them for years. And it's like, I don't know, I know there's some other guys listening to this that have gone through the same thing. And I think they'll resonate with that. But I feel like we kind of won at the end of the day. And it's a really nice place to be. We get to focus on the important parts of the job and really go hard to really earn that title and that pay, and not just be a sticker on the truck or a firefighter T-shirt, you know.
100%.
A lot more than that,
dude. That's so big, man. I know I've just from hearing other stories and talking to people too. It's like, you know, to be able to respect the person that you're working for, to know that person has earned that spot that they're in, is such a, I mean, I don't think people really realize how much of a staple that is, especially for the crew that's working for you. I mean, I used the analogy just last episode, but it was like you're on a construction site and you got some college kid who's coming in telling you how to do the construction job. You're like, who are you? You've never even done this before. But you get somebody who you've worked alongside, you know, this person is a street smart guy that knows exactly what he's doing, and then they get promoted. You respect the hell out of what person says because they've lived it and they've done it. So to have that there in Spokane now, especially with that rich tradition, I had no idea until I talked to you about it, which is huge. You were saying we were even training Seattle guys, Portland guys, California, everybody was coming to Spokane.
Like, we were teaching all of them how to do the rescue techniques of the day, which were like, that was back in the days of Pompier ladders, the scaling ladders and all that. And they called it rope slides, but they would, you know, rappel. They would send the victim down and then rappel down the rope. And we've got all the archives of the Spokesman Review and the Spokesman
I'm gonna have to see some of those.
Chronicle.
I'm gonna have to see
I'll
some
show
of
you
those.
some of it. It's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
we're gonna have to put those some on the screen actually as we're talking about this. But with that too, so when you got to Spokane, going through those steps again. So you first arrived. When did you start getting your promotions? When did you start going up to get up to captain? When was that?
I was not in a hurry to promote. All I wanted to be, I knew really quickly that I wanted to be a truckie, a ladderman. In fact, an old chief who was our training chief, Chief Bob McBride. He was an old truck guy, and I think he might have seen something in me, or maybe a reckless, or I don't know, maybe he just saw something, a love for that type of work, and kind of said something about being a truck guy, that I should think about being a truck guy. And I didn't know the difference. I'd never been around firefighters much. And why do you like truck work so much? Because initially you just think being on the nozzle in a hot fire, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what draws you. And he told me, I think he had 32 years on the job at the time. And he said, kid, I got 32 years on the job, 30 amazing years of truck work and 2 miserable years on an engine, which I've had my engine time and I didn't find it to be miserable, but that kind of piqued my interest. And I was like, huh, because I really respected the guy and was like,
Yeah.
oh, what? It was, and I think it was actually his example. Now that I think about it, why did I respect him?
Yeah.
It wasn't just because he was our training chief. That was part of it, but he came out and personally taught us how to throw ladders. And he was an old white-haired gentleman, very,
That's cool.
very professional, and just the way it was so clear the pride he took in throwing ladders and how good he was at it with, I don't know how old he was, but his white-haired old man at that point. I mean, he had to have been in his late 60s. And I just thought, huh, what is this? So I just wanted to be a good ladderman. I got onto truck 2, or ladder 2, we called them. Now all of our ladder trucks, it's truck 2, truck 14, truck 4. And I got on truck 2 at the time. I got to work with probably our most legendary fireman and truck officer, Lieutenant Dale Michael. He was the Bird. All those old guys had nicknames. And so I got to work with Bird a bunch of years, and he was a pretty hard to, like, an amazing guy who was so good, like that, trying to fill those shoes. That's another thing. I'll never quit training, and I'll never quit trying to get better, because when he retired at age 67 or 68, I forget which, and probies couldn't keep up with him. New guys, literally, I'm not kidding you, at a working fire, probies couldn't keep up with him in his late 60s. He was just a force of nature. And oh my God, was he didn't have a bit of fear, just had the most natural instincts at a fire, always knew what to do. And of course, Spokane had quite the war years in the 60s and 70s, and he had been all through that. I think he came on in, not 60s, but I think he came on in about 72. So he had caught the 70s and 80s really were kind of Spokane's war years for fire. So I got to work for him on truck 2, back at 2s, and then after I had about 10 years on, I decided it was time to promote. I spent a real short time driving truck 2, and then made lieutenant just a year after I had made FEO, or driver, and then and went to truck 4 downtown, and that was, I had to put my time in on the engine, tried to get as good as possible. I don't know that I'm the best engine guy, but I took it real seriously and applied that same training ethic to that. But eventually got on to truck 4, and being the officer on truck 4 was all I ever wanted out of life. Like the downtown big, 100-foot tillered ladder, all the old buildings of downtown Spokane. And we were getting a lot of fires at the time, and so I didn't want to promote. I stayed a lieutenant for a lot of years. I think like 15 years as a lieutenant, and then finally decided it was time for a change. Took the captain's test, and so just this last a little over a year, I've been building truck 14, and Yeah, it's been a pretty cool
That's
journey.
that's cool to hear, Dan, because there's so many times we have people on the show, we're talking to people, and it's, the goal is to promote, the goal is to move up. How do I get up in the ranks? How do I move up higher? How do I keep doing this? And to hear someone like yourself that says, I take pride in this thing that I'm doing and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Maybe there's higher pay or something up here, but at the same time, it's about not necessarily the quality of life, but what you're experiencing when you have the job is what it sounds like, at least to me. And so for you to be able to
Yeah.
say like, hey man, I'm enjoying this. This is where I want to be. I'm content with where I'm at. I love the guys around me. That's something you don't hear too often, man. So
No,
kudos
and
to
I'm
you on
I'm really grateful for the guys, the good guys that want to promote. 'Cause sometimes it's not always, the
that.
guys you want to that promotes. I'm always really grateful when the real firemen want to move up, but I just have no interest in going further than I really like being on the truck. I like working with the guys every day, and I think battalion chiefs can make an amazing difference on the fire department. But I
Yeah,
think I've found I like working
that's
at
great.
fires. I like going in and searching behind the fire or above the fire and
Yeah,
getting in where it's hot and uncomfortable is well, I guess these days it's kind of my comfort place.
comfort zone.
I really enjoy it.
With that all being said, I know there's a few stories that you've told me a little bit. We kind of just touched on them a bit, but
Hmm.
you've had a few times that have really impacted you in the fire service. I know, especially
Yeah.
early on in your career, which I know for sometimes, man. I mean, that's early on when you impact or come across situations like that. Sometimes people are just they're out of the service at that point. Can you hit on a couple of the stories that you had to face early on in your career?
Yeah, I I was lucky to get a lot of fires in the early aughts. That Spokane was burning really a lot, and it wasn't it was no it wasn't Rescue 2 on FDNY, and it wasn't Detroit, but had a few days where I had three like good working fires in one
Hmm.
shift. Happened to me a couple of times, and you'd catch a few workers a month usually, and you might have more than that some months, so we had some really good years. I got a lot of good experience, and that was all with old truck officers like Dale Michael, Kenny Miller, Kurt Cole, just really solid guys that'd been around a long time, and just learned from them. But I think at that point, aggressiveness and hustle, I that came pretty naturally to me. I know how to work hard, and that had always been enough. Like that, things were working out great for me. I think I was starting to develop all I ever wanted to be was I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about any of it. I just wanted if my kids came to that fire station someday, I wanted them to say, "Your old man was a heck of a fireman.
Hmm.
He was one of the good ones." That's all I ever wanted, and I was working really hard for that, and just hustle and probably a little too much aggressiveness had always won the day for me. And then I had a fire that kind of really rocked my world a bit, and I was had just a little less than 5 years on the job. Uh, it was really early 2005. Around 1:30 in the morning, we get a call and working fire not far from the station. We're going to be first in, and as we're en route, comes across that there's a toddler trapped on the second floor, and and my officer told me, "Scott, this will probably be you." It was a lot. I think he meant it in a good way, but it was a lot to put on a young guy, and I was fast, like I thought I would just go. I thought I would just go in and
Hmm.
make this grab and just run right out with this girl. And we used to have packs and seats. I came out like, God, I did not waste any time. I did. The one thing I was proud of after that fire was I got in trouble for telling cops to get the hell out of the way. Maybe I used stronger language than that because there was like a ton of, and not to knock the police, but there were a ton of police on scene. They'd had a standoff. Police, like a some sort of firearm standoff in that block. So when the fire happened, they all came. So there's like somewhere between 15 and 20 police officers on scene. So much noise. It's a high population residential area. So a lot of people out watching by that point, people screaming, she's in there, she's in there, and cops everywhere. And I came sprinting out of my seat. Face piece on, fully, all I had to do was turn my bottle while I was running and yelled at some cops to get out of my way, apparently. I don't remember doing that, but they complained about it. And I thought I was just going to run in there and grab her. And the next thing you know, I'm inside. I'm by myself. And not to knock my crew members, we were using some bad tactics at the time. We had just got a ladder that pumped water, and at that time if we were first in, we would pull lead and do the truck work, and that was just too much. It left me by myself inside, and it was super loud. Everybody's yelling from the doorways, and I'm like, shut up, I'm trying to find her. And then I just remember it was so freaking loud in there, and I couldn't see a damn thing, like just the worst, zero viz. And there's stuff everywhere. It's a little bit, not a hoarder house, but very cluttered. Mm-hmm. And I'm just running into stuff. And I can look back and know that I could have been better on that day. I could have been more systematic. I thought I knew where I was going. And as soon as I got off track, I wasn't seasoned enough to be able to keep all of those little bits of information in my head and keep my whereabouts. And I got, I was going hard, and I was not finding her. And then I started hearing her, and that's a hard thing to talk about. And I don't want to be too graphic, but it was her, screaming as her lungs burned. And I think yelling out for me, I was yelling out for her. And it was the worst thing that ever happened. Like, she sounded like she was everywhere and nowhere. And I felt like I was right. It felt like we were so close to each other, and I could not find her. And then I realized she was on the other side of the fire. And she was next to a window under a couch. There were a couple couches there, and I tried to move one out of the way, and that's where the fire had started. And when I tried to move it, like I said, that was the other side of the fire. When I tried to move it, it blew up on me and rolled over and pushed me out. And I felt like I should have, everybody told me I did everything I could do. I mean, I was brave, I was fast, but I know I could have done better. I know that if I had that fire today, it would go differently, and we can talk about the ways it would go differently. But I just realized that, bravery, hustle, and like wild abandon, mm-hmm. that'll win a lot of the time, but it ain't gonna get you there on the really tough ones, and it didn't on that day. So I got like light burns on my hood, but it was like a sunburn basically on that I had mm-hmm. on my face, and I felt like I should have, like, why didn't I come out? What, I should have been gone to Harborview and not her, and that's, I mean, if a kid told me that today, I'd be like, hey, that's not reasonable, but
yeah,
that's what I was there for, and I just felt, it just rocked my world.
I can imagine.
In that moment, I'll tell you what, I'm not a person that's prone to, I don't talk about ghosts and spirits, and I'm very skeptical by nature, mm-hmm. but I have to say, I'll just say the way it feels to me is that in that time, that Taylor was her name, and I felt like she like bonded with me in some way that that bond hasn't been broken, and I feel her presence at times in my life. And so, but at the time, all I was left with was just the sense of failure. And this department, my captain, everybody did a good job of supporting me, and they told me I did a heck of a job and all that, and I couldn't have been more aggressive. Whatever. I knew it could have been done better, and
Yeah.
I knew I could have. I knew we could have got her out because we did. That was before we VES'd, and VES was brand new to Spokane. Well, we hadn't started doing it. I think the Mittendorf book had just come out, or at least just gotten to us, Mittendorf's truck book, and it was in there. And that started a long journey for me of a lot of training on, vent enter search and a lot of other stuff. But I would say that it changed my career, and that I keep a picture of her in my helmet. But more than that, I keep her in my mind. I don't think about her every day anymore. I did for a kind of a long while.
Yeah.
But I don't think about her every day. But when I do, it's still like it just happened. But it's a good feeling now, because over the years I had a number of fires where, I don't want to be too dramatic, but where things got really close, where I was like, I don't know if I'm making out of this one. One was following Dale Michael into a fire where a family was trapped, and they ended up getting out a different way, but we were on the third floor of a real heavy fire. And that was the first time it happened, actually, where I felt this presence. And I got split up from Bird. We were behind the fire. Somebody had shut down the nozzle while we were back there, and it started getting really hot. And I mean, I was like, just that fight or flight instinct, and I was scared, I was still pretty young on the job, but I was still going forward. I wasn't going to let Bird, and I remember at some point we got split up, and it got so hot. This sounds dramatic, but it's what happened. My gloves started on fire. And I think what happened clearly is, probably a light fixture melted onto my glove, and that. But imagine, hottest fire you've ever been in. It feels like you're about to burn, like I'm down, I'm not crawling anymore. I'm belly crawling. And all of a sudden my glove lights on fire, and I just go, huh. Like, I just remember this feeling of like a momentary panic.
Oh yeah.
And then I had this calmness, and I probably am not going to be able to talk about it without getting, it makes, I mean, I don't know. I don't have control over that. It still makes me emotional to this day because it was Taylor's presence, her, whatever it was, she was there, and was able to, like, it wasn't, oh God, this sounds silly, but she wasn't talking to me, but like in a way talking to me, I guess, like just this calmness, like, you can do it, you're going to be okay, like you're doing what you need to do, keep moving forward, or, whatever. I don't remember but it was most powerful thing that's ever happened to me. I always wanted to see some kind of, like, I don't know, show me a UFO or something. I've never seen a damn thing. But
you felt it.
And that was incredibly powerful. And I've had that happen on just a couple other fires where things got intense. Oh, and the way that ended, I ended up, after my glove started on fire, it became clear that it was time to leave. But I was like terrified that I would leave and Bird would still be in there, because the guy, he was like,
no stop button.
He was a superhuman to us, like.
Yeah.
And when we made it to the door, we ran into each other, and I was like, oh, I nailed it. And the nozzle was laying there on the floor. We picked it up and knocked the fire down. But, and then also I did some really serious alpine climbing for a number of years, and I had that same experience on, I think, just twice in the mountains, but twice when I didn't think I was going to make it home. And the same calmness, like, just it's like, and I hope I get to experience it a couple more times, like I hope that I'm in a fire that brings that on, because it's pretty amazing. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if my brain made it up, but it feels like, I don't know, it feels pretty real. And it's just this calmness and presence that just brings me right into the present moment and makes me think clearly and quiets everything down, I guess.
Do you think a lot of that comes back from training? Because, I think about right now, and this is a crazy analogy. You're going to think, where are you going with this, Taylor? But like, I think about, like, for instance, my sister-in-law, she's got a dance team now over at Ridgeline High School. And what's crazy is that when she's coaching these dancers, it's like she coaches muscle memory, right?
Right.
You coach muscle memory, but you can't really coach movement. That comes from when you feel the music. Like, you practice for your muscle memory, and then when the time comes on and the music plays, you have your muscle memory, but at that point, it's your movement. How do you feel the music, and how are you moving to the music? And you really can't coach that. And so when I hear you talking about this kind of stuff, and I hear you talking about the training situation, it takes me right back to that. It's like, when you train, you're training muscle memory. You go into each training session, and why do you train muscle memory, and how do you train it? You train it going as hard as you possibly can every single time that you get on scene. And then the second you get on the fire, it's not like you're going in with like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. You move to how you think you're supposed to move, but your muscle memory is already intact. So the way you move is just so fluid. And it's crazy how much that was relating to me the whole time that you were saying that, because I see it, man. That story that you had about Taylor, I mean, her picture's right back here behind it, man. You're showing to me. I can't even fathom that, honestly. Can't even fathom that. I mean, anybody else, that would have completely broken them, man. I can honestly tell you that, honestly. And for you to be able to come out of that and take the experiences and doing what you're doing now, and you let that impact you in the way that it has, it shows, man. It honestly, it shows every time. I've only seen you train once or twice, but every time I've seen you do that, man, you can see that little spark in you and that it factor. And that's the it factor. And you guys train just like that. It's an incredible story, man, especially all these scenarios that you've been in. Just unimaginable.
Well, first of all, I got to say, that was a heck of a segue.
Yeah.
I was wondering how I was going to get away from talking about it.
Yeah.
Go pretty deep on the ghost stories there, but
no,
that's a wonderful segue, because I think you're absolutely right that it really, I mean, that is its own thing and incredibly meaningful. But how do we get good at that? How does our body know what to do? You're exactly right. It's training, and I mean, I was already, I think, pretty active as a firefighter, but that really gave, and I've developed over the years how I train and frequency and what I train on, but that really started everything in that direction. And I just absolutely believe in training every single shift, which is much more common now. It was not a thing when I came on. Nobody trained every day, and we train multiple times every day. We pick a couple different areas. And like I said, we hammer the basics, but I spend a lot of time thinking about the tactics and teaching the tactics. We'll do tactical trainings or building walkthroughs along with the physical stuff, but we're getting that every day. And then I have those. And in fact, I got to design at the request of our operations chief, Darren Nyworth. I got to design a series of drills as like a test for getting on our truck companies, and they're like these drills that bring everything together, like test all the really difficult skills. And I like coming up with those really tough drills, but having all the, not forgetting the basics, and so that you really have that muscle memory. And to me, I think some people think the basics and having things like riding lists, like tool assignments, they think, oh, that dumbs it down. And that I've heard people say, oh, that's for volunteers, but it's not. That's what FDNY does. And I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but to me, the riding lists and tool assignments and knowing your job, knowing all the pieces of your job, that's just as important as throwing that ladder, right? It all ties together. And it's really how special operations, that's how the Navy SEALs train. That's how the Army Rangers train and the Green Berets and, like, and every good sports team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for some reason, that's not universal in the fire service, but I believe that especially a truck company and most of the fire business, it's very close to what is expected of a special operations team. So I try to go to that level, training my crews,
Mm-hmm.
and that starts with this basis of, I kind of borrowed this from FDNY, from their old Ladders 4, which originally was called Ladders 3, and it's their operations manual on truck company. I forget what the new one's called, but it's all of their truck company manuals come from the old document Ladders 4, and it is position by position. If you have a fire in a brownstone on the top floor, can man does this, the irons man does this, officer does this, you'll have this tool. And some people rebel against that. Oh, we'll figure it out when we get there, I've heard a bunch of times. But there are some constant things in the fire service. And even if we don't need that tool, by that becomes it's just so second nature. I don't waste any bandwidth on thinking about, well, what do my other guys need to grab and who's over here?
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly where we have an A team and a B team on the ladder company, on our
Mm-hmm.
ladder companies. And I know where my B team's going. I know that it's okay. Say we have that same fire. I'll go back to the fire with Taylor. The way we would approach that today, we wouldn't be pulling nozzles. Engine 3 was right behind us and could have handled that just
Mm-hmm.
fine. Myself and the firefighter, or the A team, my firefighter would haul ass straight to that front door. He'd force the door, look inside, see if that's his best route in. Meanwhile, I'd be running to the back and I'm looking for fire conditions, rescues, hazards. But it's not it's like just running back there, just looking for what's going on. Where am I needed right now? And
Mm-hmm.
if I spot a better entry back there, we'll go in there. I'll let him know and we'll meet up and go in there. Or if front door is best, that's where we go. It's just quick little judgment calls. But I'm not thinking about, where's my B team? What tools do they have? Because I know what they're doing. They have a ladder, and there are two ladders possibly, and they're VSing the second floor on that one. So we go in low, they go in high. We take multiple areas of egress, cover as many areas of egress as possible on the way in. We go, and my A team goes straight to the seat of the fire, which incidentally, going straight to the seat of the fire would have put my A team right where Taylor was. VSing the most obvious route would have taken my B team to the same spot. And that's where actually, and I want to give a shout out to another Casey, a firefighter. I guess I won't use his last name. I don't know if you want, but he was the guy that ended up. They did get Taylor out of that fire, and I think for him, you were saying that you don't think it would affect everybody that way, but I think a lot of people do.
Really?
Like Casey's an outstanding firefighter, and I know that fire meant a lot to him, and I won't speak for him. I just know that it also affected him in a big way, and he became a better firefighter for it. Wasn't like thrown out of the fire service or frozen in fear or any of that. He's a very, very good fireman. But anyhow, that's how they ended up getting her out. Another later incoming ladder ended up laddering that window, and it was just too late in the fire. They did get her to a burn unit, but she passed away later. So yeah, those are the kind of things that I've instituted on Truck 14, in which I'm trying to spread around our entire fire department, or those little building blocks like riding position assignments, and having that be such a fine-tuned machine that, to me, that allows me to, I don't have to think about what the notes are and where my fingers are. If we want to use guitar as an analogy, I can play jazz. I can do like ideally that's where we're at, you know, and I think your sports analogy, that's what's going on. You're not thinking about, oh, I grabbed the ball here. And, you know, you don't
Yeah.
think about any of that.
It's all muscle memory that you
So
have.
to me, that's what good training and good SOPs bring, is that free thinking state.
Well, what I like about what you said too is that you know, same goes for like a successful business. Someone's trying to invent something. Someone's trying to do something else. What's the key to all that? It's not just knowing what you want to invent. It's knowing how something works. Like I know that if I want to, in order for me to invent a new car engine or something, I have to understand how that engine works. I have to know everything from how the fuel gets in it, how the carburetor works, how every single thing works. If I want to do anything or have any input on how to make something, you have to know the basics. If I'm going to run this business, I have to know what it's like to take a truck from the coast to go here. So how can I make that process better? If I'm going to do something in the welding shop, how are they doing welding? What is the process of it? How can I make that better? Then as a whole group, you can then collectively make a company that's going to be a lot more collectively better because you understand how every process works. So for you, like you just said, on that training, you knew exactly what truck 2 is going to be doing there in that time because you knew exactly what you're going to be doing. You don't have to worry about your other guy on the shift because you know he's been trained the right way. He was taught the right way because he's done maybe those things. You've done those things. You've done all of those jobs to understand the best way to do it. So collectively, for you to be able to have that knowledge base that you have and implement that in the way that you have is priceless, honestly. To be able to go through those experiences and take them like you have and done what you've done, it's a priceless thing, man.
Yeah. Oh, and
Can you hold that mic just a little bit closer too? Sorry.
yeah. I think a fire that we had just a couple years ago really illustrated what can happen when you have a crew that really is that well trained together. We had a fire over on in what we call the zone. It's West Central Spokane. It used to be where we got a huge bulk of our fires. I think it's a little bit gentrified somewhat now, but anyhow, this was a couple years ago. We had a fire in the zone. We get there, and I think it was like evening, like late evening, 10 o'clock at night maybe, but just getting dark. And we get a report of resident trapped in this house fire. It's a single story, and there's heavy fire in the front of the house. I mean, it's rolling. Like you're not making any progress real quick through that fire. And there was a person that had made it out and was yelling that his brother was in there. And I was on truck 4 at the time, and we had spent earlier that day training on VES. Actually, we had a very rigorous training regimen, and it was a cold day. And I think January, it was like, I remember coming in that morning and going, guys, I know we scheduled that training today. We don't have to do it. It was like 16 degrees, snow blowing sideways, a nasty day. And we were training right in that neighborhood. We had a shout out to the Maxwell House. The friend that owns the Maxwell House used to let us train in his they have apartments above the bar there, and they're a real friend of the fire department and would let us train. So the guys said, nope, we're doing it. And we went over and did a couple hours in that nasty weather. But once you get working, then we're just having a blast, having a good time. Well, we get back to the station, and I don't know, within a couple hours, that fire came out. But guess what we had been doing right before that? And and not just that day, every day.
Yeah.
Right? So we roll up. I heard the report of victim trapped right as we were coming up on scene, if I remember correctly. And as I said, truck 4 on scene, we already had an engine on scene, and I called truck 4 on scene. And I just mentioned that for the time that it took to get the guy out, because we time stamped that to when we had him in the front yard. So what we did was took one look at it. My B team, I didn't have to talk to them. They know they're going for the remote, for the above the fire, behind the fire, most dangerous point that we're not likely to be able to get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going for seat of the fire, but I look and see, oh wow, like engine 3 is they're getting after it, and it's going to be a while before they make it into that house. But I can see some bedroom windows in the back, and so we don't even have to talk. B team goes down the Bravo side. A team goes, because it's just a one story.
Mm-hmm.
Normally they would go up second floor and then work their way down. But B team goes Bravo. A team goes down the Delta side. We find a door back there. We open the door. It won't open. We get it open a little bit. It turns out the victim is behind that door. And it was a hoarder house condition, and the door would not open. We ended up VSing in and pulled him out through that window, just classic Denver drill, and took him out to the front yard. And when I said, we've got the victim in the front yard, that was 2 minutes and 8 seconds from when I had announced on scene. So, and that, like things went really well for us. We didn't waste much time anywhere in there, but that's what good training can get you. And I was so proud of my guys on that one. Like just never even had to say a word during that rescue. And somehow we put it all together. And the doctor at the ER doc, who was on duty is our fire department, well, what do they call it? He's our lead, our doc, that medical director for the fire department. And he told us that the guy wouldn't have lasted 20 seconds longer. His levels were that bad. So that is a cool feeling to see that come around. And 100%. I've had, been lucky to have some other rescues, but that's just one that shows like when a crew working together and when we had him, by the time all four of us were on that guy, he was a really big guy. He was like 230, 240, like 6'5". It was not easy to move out. We had all hands on him. Never had to talk to the B team or tell them what they were doing. We made entry on the Alpha. By the time we were done, they were with us and got him out. And it was just, that to me was a real like, hey, incredible. This is working. Like this really works.
That's cool, man. That's not that I've ever had that. Can't even imagine that feeling. What is it you're looking for? Because you mentioned at the very beginning that you've got to hand select your team, right? You got to have your guys that you basically hand selected, is how I was hearing it. What is it that you're looking for when you're finding those it guys? What's that character trait that really stands out to you when you're looking for a crew member?
I think the number one thing is work ethic. Like, it takes a lot to, that's more than most crews train. And so I need those guys. There's guys like that in every fire department, but not everybody. And I'm looking for that guy who who doesn't have to have anybody to tell him to get out and train.
Yep.
Like my crews are already out doing stuff when I'm thinking about our plan for the day. They are always driving, driving to get better. And then, God, I don't know. There's some intangible stuff, like how people perform on a fire, that I don't know how to describe that. I guess there's a little bit of, it when you see it, but I think it's somebody that can, first of all, train. You're not getting there without training. So somebody that has the willpower and the desire to train at that level. And then somebody that can be in the middle of all that and not get distracted and not miss, to me, the number one thing that made Bird who he was, like just an absolute legend, because I got to study him. I studied him like he was my PhD.
Yeah.
And he always saw the little things in the side that were going on. He just had this uncanny ability to see where the real problem was, to see, oh, this it's already in the attic above us. It's developing over here. It's getting close to flash over in this room. Uncanny ability to do that. But I I do think that is trainable. Some people are going to be better at it than others, but I do believe it's very trainable, and it takes a free thinking mind. Like you can't be, I talked a lot about SOPs and basics and having all your drills like this. If we do this way, and then you got to be able to throw all that out the window, and then you're just living in the moment and seeing things as they need to be done. And that's, I think, that for me, the number one thing that really sets some firefighters apart is an ability to do that.
You can't, it's something you can't study. You're not studying that in a book. It's something your hands are on, you're understanding it. So it's something that you have to be, like you said, you can tell a lot about a person when they're doing it. You explain it to them, you do it. Are they listening to what you're saying? Because to me, that's a huge one for me too. Is work ethic. I mean, I'm talking just from a job. Work ethic. And then when I tell you something, are you looking at me and just it's going straight through? Or are you processing what's being said? And there's people who can look at you and shake their head, but they're not listening to a word you're saying. They get on scene and it's like, we literally trained for that for how long? And you can't remember a thing that we just talked about. So it factor, having the wherewithal to understand and read a room, man, is what it sounds like to me. And you have,
and I think there are some intangible qualities to that, but I think it really is trainable. It's not always easy. Because we're given a lot of rules in the fire service, and it's important to know the rules and to know the SOPs and to understand them and really understand them, to be able to execute. But at the end of the day, the fire doesn't have any rules. Fire is entropy and chaos. Fire doesn't have a rule book, and we have to be able, and I'm not advocating for throwing safety out the window or any of that. I think what guys will understand is like, it's the difference between box checking and giving fire assignments. Box checkers are guys that go, okay, well, I got fire attack, boom, done. Search, done. But there are so many things that don't get assigned at a fire, and you have to be able to do all of those. And that's, you can't get locked into this linear thinking. You have to be able to think on a number of levels and hold a bunch of thoughts in your head. And a lot of that especially for a ladder crew, because our job is search. But as I was taught, and as a lot of guys will know the saying, as the first line goes, so goes the fire. Number one job of a ladder crew is supporting the engine crew. So if we don't make sure that they have access to that fire and know where it is, if all we're doing is search and we don't tell them how to get to the fire or help them in any way, and they need help, it's going to go bad. And that's what people miss when they only look at their assignment and go, I'm executing my assignment. I was taught that the first job of the ladder company, find the seat of the fire, provide access for the engine crew. And then next job, I was taught to always think about where the fire is going. And we also have search. Like obviously search is super important, but my crew is very fluid and flexible. And if I go in and right away I see, oh, it's already in the attic. Everything, all the action is above us. Everything that could happen that's going to go bad is above us. What's needed more right now, search or opening up? Well, I'll make both of them happen, because I'll just start opening up. And if I need help, then I pull my A-team member from search and he helps me. And then as soon as we can, we get right back to search. But we're opening up because nothing's getting better until they get water on the fire. It's an old saying, Andy Frederick's, FDNY. I think actually it was his, that as the first line goes, so goes the fire, but also an old FDNY saying, more lives have been saved by properly positioned hose lines than by any other means. So we have to remember that as ladder guys. We can't just be, now in the age of YouTube, which I love it, the guys, there's a lot of fun stuff out there, but there's a lot of guys that are like, I'm going to get a grab. I've been lucky to have some grabs in my career. They do not happen very often, and they won't happen for a lot of guys. It's just, they don't happen all the time. So you have to think bigger than that. And if all you can think of, if you're off searching uninvolved portions of this house and you have only so long to search where the fire is. So we do that first. And then we start opening up, because if this thing's going to flash, that's why it's going to flash, right? And then it hurts all of us. So it's a bigger problem. And that's what a good fireman does. Is he's able to hold all those thoughts and go outside of what his assignment was, but still perform the assignment, because my B team is still continuing the search while that's going on.
Interesting.
And we will finish that search. We're just always, it's all judgment calls, and the fire has no rules. So
interesting. You brought up a good segment just there for me too. A transition is you talked about like the age of YouTube. You talked about the age of now, like obviously generations now from back when you started now to where we are now. I'm sure there's been an involvement / evolve, if you will, of firefighters that have happened since you started. Now we got the age of YouTube. We got the social media happen. We got all of these other things that are happening. Especially the video. I don't know if you get a chance to watch that video when you guys were out here training that VES.
Yeah.
Yes. So you got people now. So you have the VES video that's happening at our facility when you have one of your guys going up and doing a VES, and then all the comments are, oh, he's not sounding the floor. Oh, he's not doing this. Oh, he's not doing that. So you got these, we call them social media warriors out there. Yeah. These warriors that just go on and attack. That happens to our firefighters all the time. They just find every little thing that is wrong, and they just bring it up and blast it out, and all these people have their input. Have you noticed any of that in your service, and guys coming in and trying, and what was your thought on those comments?
I ignore all that. I find that all the forums and the social media, it's just, you don't know who it is that's writing it. A lot of times it's guys that have done a lot of maybe there's some good guys doing it too. I don't know, but that's the thing. A lot of times it could be a 16-year-old volunteer somewhere or a guy that's trained a lot and not had hot fires. Yeah. And those don't matter to me. I get enough fires to see what works, and have been doing it for, over 25 years now. And I have almost 140 years of SFD, tradition and history to guide me in what works. I'm not blind to where we're going wrong. I always try and analyze what we're doing and see if there are ways I can improve it. But I don't think improvement comes from looking online. And the guy that they're talking about, that's my Brazilian roof man.
Stud.
Gilmar. He is an absolute stud. And none of those guys, they can't touch Gilmar on truck work. He is an absolute beast. Animal. And I would say that, I mean, if you want to hear my rationalization for that, because I started, it was actually after, I forget the guy's name, but there's a Boston guy that goes around, I'm pretty sure he's Boston, that goes around giving VS classes, excellent VS classes. And I was VSing a lot, but after talking to him when he was doing a class here, I realized that, because we talked about how many VSs we had done. I had a good number. He's like, I've done it was hundreds, because that's what they do on every call. That's where I got the B team always VSing, and I just realized, they're good on it, good at it on another level, because they've done this at 300 fires or something. Yeah. And I've done it on, I don't know, a handful at the time. So, and in that, and we started, doing it like as I expect it's all judgment calls. If they have reason to not do it, then they don't do it. But that's just gaining access in a way that nobody else can, and that it's covering egress areas and usually bedrooms upstairs. But they can make the call that, nope, nothing going on up there. We're going down here. But they'll probably need to tell me about it afterwards. And so in all those years that I've been doing VSs, how many times have I sounded the floor? I don't know. I don't sound the floor very much. You know why? Because I'm a human with eyes, and I can see what's on fire. And guess what's not often on fire? The floor below. Now, if it is, and you have really heavy fire, and I've heard stories of like, I didn't sound and I went in and it was a drop down to whatever. Well, you're not very good at reading buildings then. Like, I know my city, I know my buildings, and I'm not saying don't sound. I'm saying I don't always sound because I have eyes. I've been to, I don't know how many fires at this point in my career. Very good at reading buildings, very good at reading fire conditions. And to be honest, as a couple guys mentioned in the comments, guys who clearly seen a bit of fire themselves, you're not going to find out if that floor is going to collapse with a New York hook or a pike pole. It's probably not that realistic. I'm not saying not to sound. Everybody should do what their experience teaches them to do. And I will sound in the right conditions. And I sound the shit out of a roof when it gets bad, but I don't sound stuff that's not on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can gain that information. So
it's a different animal now these days when you're trying to get, and some people are trying to put actual content out there that's really helping other people. But it's just crazy, man. People just don't want, even like doing this podcast, you know, we get comments or things that are said and it's just like, hey, we're trying to we're bringing people on to talk to people. And you know what? Sometimes there may be something that you say that someone doesn't agree with. And there may be something that people say that don't agree with. And it's, you know what? It's taking collectively the knowledge from everybody with the experience that you have, man, which being able to take things from what you said, hopefully it does maybe twerk something, or maybe it just piques something on somebody's brain, or just gets them thinking just a little bit differently. Who knows? Maybe they're on a fire one of these days and they, oh my God, go back to what you said, or a training event or something. But you have to be able to know where people are coming from and understand, and not just be the person who's out there just blasting people for maybe. You never know what the conditions are.
I think that's super important to like, because yes, you're not going to like everything I say about how to fight fire. And I'm very opinionated. I hear stuff all the time that I think is crazy, but I will try to always keep an open mind. And even when I've learned some great stuff from new guys that they took off of YouTube. So try to be open-minded to all that and at least listen.
For sure.
But there is a real high bar for me when I will give up something that I learned through this tradition of aggressive coordinated fire attack and vent with Spokane. I'm not just going to go, oh, wow, I see this shiny thing on YouTube, we're switching. It has to be really good, but I will, and I have. So try and keep an open mind to that. It's like that's with another example is a few guys brought up, what happened to the VEIS, which is vent, enter, isolate search. And I honestly rarely do. I will isolate, but the guys only train where they stay one guy stays on the ladder, one guy's in the room when they VES. I'm sure you've seen that before. There's a guy on the ladder and he's like, hey, okay. One guy in the room. And what I learned from the Boston guy, I think his name's Dennis, but I can't remember for sure, is that they don't do that in Boston. Really? And they VS every fire. And he said the same thing that I came to. And I was that was my experience at the time. But just talking to he's probably the nationwide expert, I think, pretty acknowledged across the nation as an expert on VES. And in practice, they don't VEIS that often, or they don't and not that they wouldn't isolate. Of course, if you can isolate from the fire, isolate, close the door. But then we use our experience and judgment as firemen. Is it safe to leave this room? Where's the nozzle? Nozzle could be coming up the stairs right then. Or is it safe to search this whole floor and then get back out? I think it's just really important to put some thought into that stuff before you judge. Because I changed a few things from that class with the VES guy and a number of other stuff that didn't sound right to me at first. And think about why they're doing it. Give it a try.
Yeah, I gotcha. What is, I wanted to bring up one more too before, because I know we're getting close on time here, but you were on the cover too of Fire Engineering magazine with the fire you guys have, or the fire you were on was on the cover, I should say. And this was back in, was this a few years ago, wasn't it? Or how long ago was that?
We had one just last year.
Last year?
Yeah, not too long, last fall, I think.
Okay. What was that? What was the scenario on that fire?
Let's see. That was a fire on the lower South Hill in Spokane. Mm-hmm. I think it was a 2.5 story, if I remember correctly. And so that would be like an old, we call it 2.5. It's like they're called different things in different places, but it's like a 2-story with two full stories and then a half story on top of that. Yeah. Just the attic area is a living area. Yep. We call that 1.5s and 2.5s. But I'm pretty sure it was a 2.5. Actually, I can't remember now. But anyhow, multi-story. dwelling, like apartment cut up into apartments, wood frame, heavy fire, and I was on truck 14 with my guys. We got there pretty quickly, and truck 1 was already in searching. As we arrived, we were given vent, how we operate: first truck search, second truck vent. So we were given vent. We, grabbed our ladders and our saws and went to set up for vent. And at that time, I think it was some boys off of Engine 1 and some boys from Station 4 worked together on making a rescue. At that point, they found a victim on the first floor, and they were attempting to drag him out to out the front door. And there was, just because of fire conditions and so many firefighters coming in as well, they weren't making any progress that way. It might have been also some hoarder conditions. I can't remember exactly what, but they realized that going out that window might be easier. My crew was just making the roof. Actually, Gilmar was, I think, already on the roof, and Randy. Fortunately, Randy's 6'8", my A-team firefighter, so he can just look in the window and see what's going on. And he sees one of our Station 1 guys, looks like they're trying to bring a victim to the window. And so he takes one of the chainsaws. Second chainsaw hadn't made the roof yet, so he takes that and just does a silk cut, where we call it a silk cut, but it's a window takedown or a silk cut, where you just go to each side of a window and you can start cutting right where the glass is. Here's a little note for firefighters out there. Everybody thinks that you have to bump in like 4 inches when they do that window takedown. So what they're doing is they bump in from the edge of the glass 3 or 4 inches, and then they go down and they end up with something this big. Let me tell you something about framing. There's nothing under there. Your trimmers are further, like sash and everything is where that takes up the window casing, and all that takes up where your trimmers are. So you don't just start at the glass when you do a window takedown or a silk cut. You don't need to bump in, so you can get all that space, because usually you lose so much space, it's really hard to get a body out. But that was just a side note, but I think that's a good one to know. And I framed and built houses for a lot of years before I did this, so just know that to be true. But anyhow, and then, he cuts down both sides, just cutting straight through the wall down to the floor plate, the actual flooring.
It's like a window to door conversion here.
Yep. And then you just rip the whole thing out, because now the only thing that's holding it, you have just sill plate on your flooring and nails. So it's all you're doing. When you pull it, once you cut, you're just pulling nails, and you can rip that out really fast. And it happened you can find it on YouTube, I think, and happened real fast. And we had that guy out.
So he was on the top. He was on the 3rd story then when you did that?
He was on, I think that was just the first floor, but it was an elevated first floor, like a really big porch going up. But, it also helped that our guy, Randy's just looking in the window. Oh, what's going on in there? And then can just go, but it was just another, just a good rescue. But that one was that was actually a cool one, because that wasn't the Truck 14 show or like I barely even got working on that one, I'm like everything, just the way our department's been going with training, things are getting so good. Like I arrive, and usually I do my run around the back while the guys are making the roof, and I'm looking for fire conditions, I'm looking for access, I'm looking for rescues. And usually I would get back there and nobody's been up to a lot of times those have some stairs on the back, like wooden fire escape on the back going to the top floor. And that I'll always, if that's a quick way, I'll see what's going on at least. And just one of those things where my job is the whole fire as a truck guy, right? So, and even if it's not, I might see some conditions that I can relay to somebody else. So I get up there, I go into now the fire's up on the 2nd, and I go in and I run into 2 truck 1 guys just getting after it. They're already searched their way up from the bottom floor. I go down and meet there's just guys everywhere working, like just going off like clockwork, you know, truck 1, engine 4, squad 4. They're all in there and there's guys everywhere. So that rescue was the work of about 4 different crews and happened in, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. I don't know what the time
That's
was.
crazy.
But it just happened incredibly quickly. Nobody had to stop and talk about it. It didn't have to be ordered by command. You had a bunch of free thinking firefighters making quick decisions. And that was the one that I think they did a nice little, one of our battalion chiefs, Chief Rick Barron, wrote a nice little article about it.
That's great. We're gonna be having actually David Rhodes on the show here eventually here in the next couple of weeks, Fire Engineering Magazine. So I'd be interested to talk with him about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But no, man, it all comes back down to, and I'm speaking from what I've heard from you, sounds like all comes back to training, man. Every single one of those things, and it's so cool for us. We get the opportunity to build training devices and be able to do training facilities and hear the stories from what people say, but to hear people say what you say about how much training impacts what you guys are doing on a day-to-day level and how often you guys are doing it and how hard you guys train, man. You guys are the staple of that. And every department out there should be learning from what you guys do. I'm telling you, man, you guys did a heck of a job. I can see it from an outsider. And another thing, to go to the kudos to yourself, is that I know this isn't stuff that you probably like hearing. But honestly, man, you are that guy now in your station and in Spokane Fire. People look to you now, and you can just tell your presence, your demeanor, hearing how the guys talk about you. You are that guy that people are looking up to now when they go to a fire, and your kids go and, hey, this is how Scott did it, man. So, and I can tell that looking at it. I was so excited to have you on this podcast just for that reason, to hear the stories that you have and the demeanor that you carry and how you present yourself to people. You're doing a hell of a job, man. So I know that doesn't mean a lot coming from me.
No, I appreciate that, and I mean I get some good feedback from guys, but fortunately I worked for the absolute legend, the Bird, and I'm always trying to, so I'm never there, right? Like I'm still getting better. I still have more to learn, and I'm getting old. I'm 59 years old. Like
still got the gun show though going, man. You know,
I mean, I train hard and you know what? I think physical fitness is like, if you don't start with physical fitness, you're done.
Yeah.
Every person in my station, we do group workouts on all shifts. Mm-hmm. And they are no joke. And we have 100% participation at our station every day. And that's not the norm throughout our fire department. I'm not knocking the people that don't do it, but I love it. It just keeps us all accountable. It holds me accountable. And so I can never think, oh, I'm that guy. Because, I've earned some respect from the guys, but I can't go around thinking I'm that guy. Because I gotta keep up with Joel Chavez, with Randy Ferris, with Gilmar. Those guys are beasts. They are, they're younger than my kids, or my kids' age.
Yeah.
Some, they're different ages, but they're all old enough or young enough to be my kids. And I got to try and keep up with them. So I can't get a big head. And you know what? If you're a guy who has got some time on and been on a long time, it's so rewarding to give back in the last few years. And I just see so many guys that start to kind of mail it in and get sour about the job and bitch a lot about it. Like, realize that you can be that guy. Like, I think everybody should try and be that guy, be an expert. Like, if you've been doing this job 20 years, you're an expert. Be the expert, teach the young guys, hold them to a high standard. And I think anybody can be in that seat.
You hit the nail on the head. And I can say this, being in a room full of people with the same goal, training together in the weight room, or whether you're out running, whatever it is, there's nothing like that bond. And I can imagine when it gets to the next level, like you were saying, we're out actually training on structure fires, you're doing all that. But there's nothing like it about getting in a room full of, 15, 20 of your peers who are just all working out together, training together, working hard, the banter that goes on in that room and the growth that happens during that time. It's unlike anything else. Yeah. Working out at the gym by yourself's one thing. You get into a gym with a bunch of guys just going hard, you're pushing each other. It's a different level, man.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's pretty special, I think.
What have we missed? What else do we need to talk about?
Well, we can't have missed much. Seems like we covered a lot.
For sure.
I don't know. Is there anything else I feel like we hit the points.
We hit a lot, man. We hit a lot.
I feel like we hit all the points that that either you or I had brought up, and then maybe a few more than that. But
You mentioned your kids. Talk on a personal level. Kids.
I have 4 kids.
Nice.
Yeah, 4 children. They're all adults now. So
Are they?
Yeah.
Ages span like 20s, 30s.
yeah, they're oh God, putting me on the spot
Yeah.
now. Okay, well,
Rough age.
yeah.
Rough.
Well, it's easy because Kat was born when I was hired. So Kat's it's 25, 27, 29, 31.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Great.
So they're all great kids, and they have great memories of hanging out at the fire station with me. I used to bring them.
cool.
I used to run our water trainings back in the day, back when I was at Twos on the water rescue team, and I used to bring my daughters out.
Oh.
I mean, I would be surely thrown in jail for it now, but like they would play on the riverbank while I taught water rescue classes, and we would do it. We didn't get overtime, and we didn't even get what's that called when they, trade time or anything.
Yeah.
You just did it for free because you wanted to be on the tech team. But yeah,
That's
funny.
cool.
We have it a little better now. We get pretty good overtime and stuff. But back, I laugh thinking about those days and the stuff. But you know what? My kids loved that. They loved being around the fire station, and they loved having a dad that was
Firefighter.
home and had time for them. And
That's cool.
and so yeah, I think that.
Awesome, man. Well, it was a true treat having you on the show. I really appreciate it, man. I know that there's a lot of viewers out here just watching that. I mean, just being able to hear those stories, even if you're not a firefighter, probably resonates with a lot of people. So again, really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a very busy guy right now with everything you got going on, but it was a true blessing, man, and a treat to have you on. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a real treat for me. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.